Hi everyone! It's been over 5 months since everything happened. I've never been good with words, and I'm especially bad at verbalizing my feelings. I've always hid my insecurities, and it's hard for me to open up about things, even to the people closest to me. It was nearly 2 a.m. for me on April 26 when Nonetheless and Bao posted their documents together after I had finished streaming earlier in that night. I was awake for almost 48 hours by the time I posted my apology. I mean, I don't doubt it. That must have been very stressful. Looking back at it, no, it wasn't good. It was not in a good, sound state of mind when it was written. I was blindsided by any of this coming out and the accusations made against me. No one involved tried contacting me privately beforehand. This is something that they claim they did try to talk to her, so there's a discrepancy there. I wasn't able to eat, sleep, or do anything else but watch more documents and statements be released while everything fell apart. I didn't have Red, I didn't have my friends, but I had the weight of the entire internet waiting to see what I was going to say and how I was going to say it wrong. I didn't have access to search for all the evidence to defend myself with the growing list of allegations, and I didn't have time to put it all together cohesively anyways. I was petrified. How could I possibly respond correctly to a coordinated effort like this in the state I was in without just blindly accepting fault for all the things I didn't do or never knew happened? I rushed to get something out, defend myself the best I could in the heat of the moment, and posted just so I could rest. No matter what I would end up saying, it would never have been good enough. It took me a long time to mentally recover and have the ability to face any of this again. I couldn't look at anything Sinder related without breaking down. Man, that's sad. All my fans that looked up to me were led to believe I was evil and encouraged to destroy or donate my merch. Dude, the people who destroyed the merch, like, come on, man. Almost everyone I knew or cared about turned on me in an instant, and anyone who's ever had anything to say about me did. I had only one of my close friends message me after everything was out there. I received rape, dox, and death threats over these accusations. That's awful. So I stepped away from the internet. I reconnected with Red, and we worked things out between ourselves. When we were both ready to, he helped me with a long process of making this document. Okay, so they did this together. I didn't say almost anything to anyone sooner, privately or publicly, because no one would believe me until I had absolutely everything put together to post it all at once in one place. Yeah, burning the merch was excessive. Purpose of this document: 1. To present a full story and the facts and evidence around what happened with complete transparency, defend myself against what's been said about me, and provide mine and Red's perspective and motivations about each situation. It wasn't my choice to make this public, but since it is, my side of the story matters too. To take accountability for everything that each of us are guilty of in the past couple years, whether they were revealed in the original documents or not. This document will not absolve either of us of all wrongdoing, and it isn't trying to. 3. Dispel rumors, misconceptions, and theories about me. Show how and why things actually occurred, and point out and refute discrepancies and lies in the claims or statements made against me. We've done things wrong, but the amount and degree of them has been incredibly exaggerated or completely made up. This document contains speculation. Baseless accusations were made against me without evidence, so I've kept speculations labeled as such in the document. That's weird. Most of it is supported by circumstantial evidence, but it should not be treated as solid fact. This document is not to fuel harassment or spread hate toward anyone involved. I am doing what's listed above and posting this document in the same public setting the original documents were. If you have harassed anyone involved in my defense, you are not my supporter. Your actions are reprehensible, and I've never advocated for anyone to do this for any reason. I'm sorry to anyone who's been affected by any actions of rogue community members against my principles. I like this part. I think some people should probably pay attention to this part. I've been made out to be a two-faced, greedy, jealous, and psychopathic narcissist who's maliciously used, stalked, sabotaged, and betrayed those closest to me and anyone around me for my own gain for years, manipulating my way to the top like some kind of evil mastermind. You were lied to. There are things I've done wrong, but this image of me cannot be further from reality. This was a complete public assassination of my character over what were lies and assumptions, followed by my cancellation and disappearance, with my accusers profiting from it. Damn. If I was really the awful person I was made out to be, then this document wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have any way to refute the claims made against me. I could have just continued streaming and profited from the drama and the over 30 million views the situation garnered. I could have let everyone forget about this and come back like nothing ever happened. But it's not true. I couldn't allow myself to move on without making things right. Everything that's come out and stories that followed have been blown way out of proportion and turned into crazy conspiracies. Both Fred and I have done wrong, and all of that will be addressed here, but the story everyone was told was not the reality of what happened. Every single person I've interacted with in the past almost 5 years, even those closest to me, and every single interaction with them would have to have been fake for the story told about me to be true. I believe that there were 2 people responsible for how things played out, with a third person merely having an axe to grind against someone they never liked. Nonetheless, lied overwhelmingly about what happened between her and Red, sat back and played everyone, including my friends. Shy Lily lied about me from the start, orchestrated things behind the scenes, and manipulated the public to their side. Wow, there's some big accusations right off the bat. Silverveil took the opportunity to lie all about our interactions together, making things even worse for me. Okay, I'm really excited to read the document now. I'm really curious to see what all these lies are about. I know we're just in the introduction, so I'm gonna keep going. They had the most to gain from my cancellation, including their own satisfaction. None of them could take accountability for their own actions and pushed it all onto me instead. The only 2 people that could disprove their lies were just made into lying manipulators and wiped off the internet. Aside from the labeled speculation, everything presented in this document is true to the best of mine and Red's knowledge. I have nothing to hide, and there isn't a reason to hide anything anymore. The bulk of what's shown here was over the past 2+ years. Keep in mind that no matter who you are, opinions, thoughts, and feeling can change a lot over such a long period of time. For better or worse, I went back and forth on a lot of things to put in here, asking myself I should leave them out for the people I still care for, or keep them in for my own sake. No matter what evidence is included in this document, I wouldn't be surprising if it's claimed that even with all the evidence, all of this is just me trying to lie, manipulate, and gaslight my way out of what happened, and that no one should possibly believe me. Okay, this is a very lengthy introduction. Like, this could have been said in a lot less words. To show that I stand by everything written here and that I'm sorry for the things I've done wrong, I made a very hard decision. I'm giving up my part ownership position of gamer subs. Really? Is that even necessary? I don't know if her, giving up her part ownership position of gamer sub changes anything in how I see her. It's kind of like when it's very Japanese CEO when they're like, oh, a controversy happened with our company, so I'm going to take a pay cut. I've worked so hard for them since December of 2022, and earning this position was one of the biggest accomplishments of my life. I'm honored they chose to give me the opportunity, and I've been immensely proud to have the title. As sad as I am to do this, I feel the need to protect the company I love, the people that work there, and everyone associated over my own interest. I assume she sold it? Well, yeah. Gamer subs suffered a lot of damage when all of the accusations were made about me, and that fell on my shoulders. This is my responsibility as part owner, and I don't want any more harm or negativity to come to them. By having this position, I didn't have to do this, and I was asked, forced, or coerced into making this decision. Damn, coerced! That's also another big accusation. There are things more important to me than, no way she said that, than quote, business. I notified them of my decision in June, and it will take effect at the same time this document is published. So I guess because she knew the doc would kick up the dust, she's decided to step down from GamerSup. That makes more sense. But I feel like the people that were mad at GamerSup because of her, I mean, that wasn't GamerSup's fault. Like, that's kind of dumb. Each tab in this document is about the people and events related to the claims made against me, where I've provided links to each person's perspective statement for reference, the evidence, context, and mine and Red's thought around each situation. Why is Red's thoughts in there? That makes no sense. You're intended to reach each section and in order they're presented. This document should be viewed in desktop and light mode for the formatting to appear correctly. Some information and screenshots appear in multiple sections for whoever it's relevant to. The first few sections being nonetheless Bao V card and Numi's concert and Shy Lily culminate in a section breaking down what you've seen throughout them, with the last few sections of this document being standalone. Unless stated otherwise, every link in this document is working at the time this is posted. This document will not be edited after it's posted either. Because we live in 2025 and I need to say that this document was written without the use of AI, I understand some of the things in this document may be damaging to the people involved. We've already established that. They understood that their claims would be damaging to me before they publicly made them too. Everyone can review the evidence for themselves and decide what really happened. And if I really am the person you were led to believe me to be, the burden of proof is on the accuser, not the accused. Redacted. This is the first chapter. You already sound tired from reading the intro? That intro felt like they're making you run a marathon. I say that with every Google Doc we read though. Everybody's kind of makes the same mistake. And I get it because that's not their job. Their job is not to read Google Docs. But we've seen a couple this year. So Redacted, that was her boyfriend manager back then. Red helped me put this entire document together. We want to be upfront and honest that this was a two-person effort. More than once it was edited. It just wasn't even necessary for her to mention that it won't be edited. If you do edit it, that's fine. You can just make a note that it was edited. His own commentary is present throughout and is labeled as his and highlighted in blue. Red, hello, I'm Red. I'm Cinder's longtime partner and have worked alongside her since she started this career. I helped her put this document together to set the record straight. Over the past few months, I've had to come to terms with being the reason why Cinder's image, her relationship, and her career were all ruined. I hurt people who were our friends. I fucked up, and she had to answer to the world for it by herself. I mean, that is true. It's her public image that was ruined, not his at the end of the day. I mean, his too, but he's not. He could just make a new account and he would be fine. Her IP, her name was worth something, and she can't as easily start over. My actions ruined everything for her, and I'm taking responsibility and helping her pick up the pieces. I didn't want to put something out sooner without her that could have made things worse. I ask that you don't hold what I did against her. Red and I are still together. We had a falling out and spent time apart after the documents dropped on April 26th, but he was still there for me when I was ready to talk to him again. We were able to work things out between us and forgive each other for what happened. I wasn't planning to say anything about this again publicly, but I felt I needed to. Years ago, I cheated on Red online for my own selfish reasons, and the things I said about him were out of my own frustrations and past experiences. I made things sound so much worse than they were at the time and mischaracterized the person he is. Red already knew that this happened way before it was made public in April, and no one else was ever told about it before then either. That's, okay. I don't know why do we have to rehash the cheating allegations? I don't know if you guys remember, because this part got a lot less, it sort of got less attention in the other parts, but there was like a doc made from when she was like this ASMR artist, and I think she like flirted with that guy and like sexted. But yeah, I don't know if she doesn't need to rehash this. We addressed both our problems in our relationship and moved past it a long time ago. It had nothing to do with my career or current events and isn't relevant to talk about further. We disagree, we get mad at each other, we argue, but our relationship isn't toxic or abusive in any way. I would appreciate if the speculation around it would stop. Red and I have always had some level of communication problems, even with each other. Neither of us are good communicators beyond surface level. It's hard to open up, and we got in our own heads about things. We butt heads and disagree with each other sometimes, and even more so working together all day every day. It's gotten much better over the years, but it's never been perfect. So the idea that anyone in any relationship would know about and agree with everything their partner feels, say, and does is crazy to me. I'm not the only one who's ever had a significant other keep secret from them, and neither is Red. Every relationship is different and has its own nuances, dynamics, and problems, functioning in a way that only the two people involved know and fully understand. Wait, so is she lining up to play... She lining up the argument that she didn't know what Red was doing? But if she didn't know what Red was doing, and it's all on him, then how come he's her manager again? And it's like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna keep on reading. No one looking in can say otherwise. Because I cheated on Red, should I assume that everyone's significant other has cheated on them in the past? Should I assume that all my friends' relationships are the same as mine? No, and for me to claim I know exactly how things work between any of them just because I'm their friend that sees them a few times a year is ridiculous. When I became Sinder, we wanted to keep our relationship private. That's very understandable. In public, Red was simply my manager, and we hid our relationship from my friends for over a year during multiple trips. We agreed that I'd tell my closest friends about our relationship in March of 2024 because we felt we were close enough and trusted them enough to tell them. When we travel, my friends saw us always close by each other and showing each other our work DMs on our phone, almost all of the time from chats we were both in, instead of talking about things out loud to keep up with our projects while away and to keep them private between us. It's easier to say, look at this, to keep each other on the same page rather than have a verbal conversation while we're around other people at almost all times while away. What they saw at conventions or on vacation was all they saw. Only Red and I would have any idea how we worked together and acted around each other when at home. I lived with Fred and his family from the summer of 2022 to the end of February 2025. So they did live together. Some people were claiming that they had a long-distance relationship, so Sinder couldn't possibly know what was happening with him. I have never outright told anyone this, including my closest friends. We wanted to keep at least part of our personal life private from anyone, even telling some people we lived apart. On stream, I've always said I live with family, friends, and streamed in a basement. The basement part is true. It's where I spent the majority of my time, and it's where I worked and streamed from. My career started there in 2021 with my ASMR. Red was the one with the PC, mic, and experience with content creation since it's always been his hobby. I would go there more and more often until I moved in when I became a full-time streamer. For most of my earliest streams with my P model, Red would be in the room with me, modding on a laptop and making sure things would run smoothly. He was there as my tech support since at the time I could barely play games, let alone understand how to use and fix OBS if something went wrong. Every VTuber needs that person, the tech support. We built my own PC and I stopped needing him by my side by the time I debuted my first model in June 2022. He moved his PC into his own room and has worked from there since. Starting sometime last year, my streams get disconnected and we couldn't figure out why. This was going on for months and no matter what we did, it kept happening. Dude, the same thing happened to me too, for fuck's sake. We thought there could be something wrong with... Yes, I think it was my internet that we couldn't fix. So as a last resort, my parent and I made space for me to move back in with them with my entire setup in February. We were able to fix the problem, but it ended up having nothing to do with the internet at all. I've been working and living there since, separate from Red. Okay, so basically, after February 2025, she's been living separately from Red. Got it. The reason why I'm revealing all of this now is because we could have easily gone through each other's DMs whenever we wanted in those 3 years, but we didn't. It's not like... Okay, I didn't think this was going there. It's not like we never showed each other our message directly. We did all the time, but we didn't come through each other's DMs at the end of every day to read anything we may have said, and I don't know anyone who would say that's a normal thing to do. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. But I don't think anybody thought that. We would just tell each other things that happened, and that was that. I never felt the need to look over his shoulder to check on anything and everything he was saying and to whom. We trusted each other, and he's always had my best interest in mind. Working together. I'm choosing to have Red continue working with me. That's crazy. He will not be doing any work-related communications for me in any channels I'm not also a part of. Okay, so she's gonna be in a group channel with him if ever there are communications. I now have access to his Discord account to check on things myself if I need to. It's clear to me that he learned his own lesson from what happened. He made mistakes, and I forgive him. I wouldn't be where I am without him, and he's just as much a part of Sinder as I am. He wasn't just a manager that handled some messages, and he had a part in a lot of the things I did. He's always been the main creative mind behind my debuts and other releases too. Even with how involved he was, Red is still his own person with his own ideas, his own opinions, his own feelings toward people, his own goals and his own ambitions, working under the same brand as me. Well, clearly he had a lot of ambitions. That's for sure. We worked together on almost everything, but we didn't agree on everything. There've been many business or creative decisions we'd argue back and forth about, sometimes taking days to reach a compromise. Red didn't always consult me before making his own choices in his messages with our partners. A lot of the time I agreed with what he did or said and it was fine, but sometimes I didn't and we either compromised or I had him walk back what he said. Red didn't tell me about every single interaction he had with people we worked with, and I didn't expect him to. I trusted him. There was never a reason for him to not tell me something important. That was until we disagreed about one of my friends. Bow. Even if the relationship wasn't perfect, like I can understand them trying to work together because people have, you know, gone back to non-perfect relationship before. You know, you accept somebody else how they are and you work through issues together. However, I do find the decision to hire him back as a manager not a good decision for I can't find the right word for this, but he lost the trust of a lot of business partner. And clearly, if this document is going to be all about that she didn't know and that he made his decisions on his own, then it's one thing for you to trust him back to have changed his mind, but this is an unprecedented decision to hire him back to represent you. And if he's so good at managing her and, you know, doing the creative direction and giving her ideas, well, he can do that as her partner without having the official title of a manager. So I don't think that's a decision that's going to make her look good. At the start of this year, we moved a lot of our work-related conversations with various artists into a project server so everything could be organized into one place. A lot of VTubers do that, and that's a very good idea. It could be included in discussions and decisions making where I need it to be and would be able to see everything being said without having to rely on Red to relay every detail of the things he was handling. This was for organization, convenience, and so I could interact with every person working with me directly. However, this didn't mean Red didn't still use his DMs to do business or talk to people we were working with. Besides the allegations in Nano's document, no one else we've worked with has ever complained about Red, and we both worked with dozens of people who I believe would say their experience working with us was nothing but positive. Like I said in my apology, there were things Red didn't tell me about or hid from me and did without me knowing in his DMs. They're all shown in this document in the order below. I didn't know about these things beyond what I was told, if I was at all. Number 1 is Red's inclusion of Bao and Cotton in his exclusivity deal with Nano in January 2025. Number 2 is Red telling artist number 1 Bao was someone he considered competition while discussing exclusively on the same day as his deal with Nano. So while discussing exclusivity on the same day as his deal with Nano. Red's conversation with Nano about Chai Lily in April 2025. Red's conversation with Mod number 1 about Silver Veil throughout 2024 and into 2025. Red's asking artist number 2 about not working with Silver Veil in March 2025, and Red's conversation with artist number 1 about Silver Veil in April 2025, which artist number 1 told me about days later. The names of artist number 1, artist number 2, and mod number 1 are hidden to protect their privacy since they weren't directly involved in everything that happened in April. They will be reintroduced later in this doc. If I was living with the dude, I don't know how easy it would be to just fire him and move out. Well, he doesn't have to move out. They're not living together at this point. She's living with his parents. But like, no, he knows. They stated at the beginning of the doc. He's like, it's my fault. She's doing this. She's had to, my fuck ups made her have to answer to the world by herself. Bro, if you fuck up that bad, take the hit. Like, take the hit, step down. He should have offered to step down himself. Maybe he did, but then she brought him back. Or maybe he didn't, I don't know, but still, it's not lining up. The night the first document were posted, Red was here with me. I ended my stream and he came over to see me while we worked on a few things together. We were still awake when Nano and Bao posted their document almost 2 a.m. EST. I didn't understand what was going on and started panicking. Red tried to explain what happened, but I blew up at him and kicked him out, regrettably refusing his help. We weren't in contact for almost a month after. I had one close friend reach out to me after things were public, and I responded to them sometime after Red was gone. I chose not to include their own message here. I'm so sorry, redacted name. I'm trying to collect myself. Red and I aren't speaking right now, and I'm so upset with everything. I was distraught, and I posted that Red was fired later that morning. I wasn't trying to throw him under the bus and avoid accountability. I was blindsided by my friends publicly pointing the finger at me for his words and actions I didn't even know about and I didn't agree with. I didn't know what else to do. I think the opposite of them have a professional relationship, but they admitted to having relationship issues, even betrayals. Well, everybody has their limits into what they believe they would be willing to put up with. But publicly and professionally, it's not gonna look well. Like think of it if a scandal happened with a celebrity in Hollywood. Would the manager ever be brought back? On official terms? No. In my apology, I said, as of yesterday, he's no longer working with me and I have not extensively discussed any of this with him. Because Red will continue working with me, I will be deleting this tweet sometime after posting this document. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, nice. My apology. This is not going that bad so far. Oi, you! Yeah, you. Hi. If you're not subscribed to my second channel, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So take a moment, press the like button, press the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell on. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now let's get back into the video. My apology and taking accountability. Now that I've reviewed everything that happened and had time to reflect on my own actions, there are some details I need to point out and corrections I need to make from my apology. Then I'll go over the things Red or I or both of us did wrong so we can take responsibility. Each section after this will explain the full story around each major individual involved, anything Red and I did, and defending ourselves against everything we didn't do. Quotes from my apology will be present throughout this document to show what they were in reference to. Screenshots that are directly of or taken from another document are highlighted with an orange border. Dates and important messages within any screenshots in yellow. Quotes from my apology are highlighted in gray, and Red's own comment on anything being presented are labeled and highlighted in blue. This is her apology. The things I claimed and admitted to in my apology were based on what I knew at the time, what was published in everyone else's document, and what Red told me right after. I shut him out when I shouldn't have, and I made my apology without his help, without all of the info in front of me, and without knowing the full scope of what happened, how it happened, or what to believe. I was under extreme stress and pressure to say something as soon as I could, and was expected to accept fault for everything I was accused of, but not guilty of doing. Some of the things I wrote were overly apologetic, and I made things sound worse than they actually were because of the severity of the situation. The main takeaway people had from my apology was that I pushed everything onto Red and didn't take accountability for anything myself. What I blamed Red for in my apology, because he was guilty of doing them, him telling me how great it would be to work together with Silvervale, him holding a grudge against Bao. What I blamed Red for in my apology when I was also guilty. Red was the one with the business-oriented outlook on things from the start. I adopted that same mindset myself from working together as time went on. I wrongly made it sound like I was brainwashed into thinking this way in my apology. What Red was guilty of in my apology that I didn't know about until writing it. Red and Nano ever talking about a model for Giri in November 2023. Red including Bao and Cotton in his conversation, an eventual deal with Nano around exclusivity in January 2025, and buffing Bao in their DMs as if they were our shared feelings. Red talking to Nano about Shy Lily and her model in April 2025. So these are the things that she didn't know about. Yeah. Things I said about Red in my apology that I was wrong about. That 1, he did not manipulate Nano. And 2, he did not push Nano to not work with Silvervale. And she was not a constant topic between them. Things I took accountability for in my apology. 1, agreeing with Red to talk with Nano about exclusivity. Agreeing to specifically name Silvervale in the terms and knowing a deal involving her was made. 2, guilt-tripping Nano. 3, feeling overly attached to Nano and her work. 4, not knowing about what Red had said about Bao to Nano when I should have. 5, not speaking to Bao about Red's feeling towards her and letting it spiral to the point I did. I thought there was going to be quotes from her apology here. Being upset and taking it personally when Bao hired my video editor. Being upset when... Okay. Being very possessive. My design details early on in my career. Cheating on my boyfriend. Overreacting to Niantel's Hellhound OC design, which was apologized for in the past. Neglecting or leaving behind friends of mine. I remember that one person that did that. Yeah. There was this one VTuber that was like, yeah, she used to talk to me, but as soon as she got more popular, she just ditched me. And I think this is what this part is about. I admitted to the world that I cheated on my secret boyfriend and the story pushed was that I took no accountability and used him as a scapegoat. Okay, this is why she listed all these things. Even with all these concessions of what I did do, I was still somewhat a narcissist who couldn't accept fault. What I did was not admit to the right things the people making these claims already decided I was guilty of. They also expected me to apologize for everything I've ever done without any of it ever being mentioned, even if the matter was already settled in the past. I understand that the things my manager did that I didn't know about are ultimately my responsibility, and my ignorance doesn't change that. I should have taken more care to check up on what he was saying and doing, but I was being blamed publicly for things I had nothing to do with. My accusers went out of their way to claim Sinder did this, and Sinder said that, completely disregarding Red's agency from any of his own words and actions. The proof I must have shown about everything he's ever said and done was because they said we worked on things together on our phones during the few times a year we were traveling. And Nano's document showed 2 of my screenshots from over a year apart from separate situations where I knew more or less what had happened between her and Red. There was no other evidence presented for their claim, but they told everyone it absolutely had to be this way. There was no other evidence presented for their claim, but they told everyone it absolutely had to be this way. Emphasis was placed on Red's usage of we and our, as if they could know for a fact that it meant Red was always speaking with my knowledge, approval, and oversight every single time he said it. This was necessary for their narrative to work against me. This is what I said in my apology about this. I do not condone anything about what Red said about Bao in these DMs either, and him using we and our in this context is abhorrently incorrect, and I believe was done to gain greater credibility behind what he was saying. This was necessary for their narrative to work against me. Okay, and now this is Red's comments. I've always been more or less the creative lead on things we did, like model designs, project ideas, and art in general, and Sinder often agreed with my creative judgment. She trusted me to do the communication I did for her without oversight. For example, a lot of times I would be the one talking to the artists we were working with who only knew me as Sinder's manager. If I knew the direction I wanted to take something with or without talking to Sinder beforehand, and I said, I want this art to be like this, instead of Sinder wants this art to be like this, then it felt like an awkward thing for me to say. In my mind, to the person we're working with, I'm just the manager, not the creator, not the streamer, not the client. What I myself wanted wasn't important. What Sinder wanted was. So in order to give weight to what I would say, I started using we early on without speaking for her directly, saying Sinder. If we wanted to do something a certain way, then I'd give my agency by implying that we both agreed on and made the decision, that Sinder was aware of the decision being made, regardless of if she actually was or wasn't at the time, and that my words had meaning. I was speaking on the brand's behalf. It became a habit of mine to talk this way regarding any project or business dealings. I didn't start doing this because anyone told me I should be. I didn't speak like this all the time or in every single message. It's not like Sinder never knew about what I was saying when saying we. If afterwards she didn't disagree with me, if afterwards she did disagree with me on something, then I'd have to walk back what I said and say that Sinder actually wants it this way. For example, very often Sinder was on the same page as me beforehand or would agree with what I said without her knowledge, using we afterwards. In the case of the exclusivity deal with Nano, I used we when talking about Bao, so it seemed like Sinder also backed how I felt. Sinder not only wasn't aware of this, but I knew she didn't agree with me about what I was saying. In our conversation, Nano said herself that she was not really down with working with people who Sinder didn't want her to. So I made sure to tell Nano how we felt, expressing my own feelings to her as if they were both of ours. This was all be shown in Nano section. There are 3 things in my apology I need to correct that will be shown in full detail in this doc. Missing information, lies, and incorrect statement in my apology. 1. I left out a lot of information regarding my experience with Silverveil in trying to overly apologize to her and ended up making things sound much worse than what really happened. I lied about not knowing that Red spoke to Nano about Spite in 2023 to not make things worse for myself by revealing more than Nano or Spite did about what happened regarding her. Okay. Wait, why are we revealing this now? Okay, that's interesting. I was wrong about which year the situation with Neon Tales took place in. I wrote that it was after my debut, but it was actually an entire year earlier. Okay. My apology and the accusations made against me did not cover everything Red and I have done wrong. I've laid out everything below that will be presented throughout this doc so we can address them and take responsibility. Explaining the motives and reasoning behind our actions are not meant to justify or diminish them or the feelings of those affected, but to understand why they happened. Everything one of us or both of us are guilty of, that accountability is taken for and shown in this document in the order they're presented in. We both became neglectful of many friendships and personal relationship online and IRL. Honestly, I get that. I think it's difficult to keep up with friendships and even online relationships when you're a content creator. Things do get very hectic. Red and I became consumed by our work and prioritized my career over all else. Okay, wait, what are we? This is everything that they're guilty of, and that accountability is taken for and shown in this document. So the document we're about to read. But I'm gonna get spoiled now. Red considered everyone, including our friends, a competition to some degree, and I agreed. Oh wow, okay. Red and I left Tricky at our hotel in Tokyo one day during our Japan trip in October 2024. I chose to distance myself from Cotton after what happened between her and a friend. I tried going back on my agreement with the artist Nixu in April 2025. Red asked Nano to not work with Spite in January 2023 and told me about it afterwards. I lied about not knowing he spoke to her about Spite in my apology to avoid talking about it. I lied about not knowing he spoke to her about Spite? Oh, to Nano. Okay. In my apology to avoid talking about it. Red initially dissuaded Nano from accepting a model from Geary in November 2023. I guilt tripped Nano in November 2023 and February 2025, but still sided with her. Red reassured Nano about her considering and canceling Bao's model in August 2024. A new Bao's model was cancelled in August 2024 and didn't try to do anything about it. Red and I agreed to talk with Nano about exclusivity, including not to work with Silverveil, specifically on any more models in January 2025. Red and Nano agreed to a deal for her not to work with Silver or Bao or Cotton in January 2025, only telling me about Silverveil's inclusion. Red spoke to Nano about Chaya Lily in April 2025 after seeing Nano work on a model for her and never told me about this conversation. Wow. We asked our video editor about exclusivity after Bao started working with them. Okay, usually you should start your document with your strongest evidence against the claims, not just admit to all this stuff. Like, you put that after. Red, also it's confusing because this is disjointed from the evidence. So she's like preemptively putting these lines, but I don't have the screenshots to back them up. And then later in the document, I'm gonna have to read this again. Each and every single one of these claims probably attached to a screenshot or whatever explanation they have. I think I would have rather just have it done throughout the doc than preemptively like that, because reading this is just... I didn't speak to Bao to clear things up about what I knew Red held against her, and it led to me being an awful friend to her for months at the start of 2025. Both Red and I mismanaged the planning and communication with Numi about her concert at the start of February 2025. I pulled out performing in her show and I almost didn't go after choosing business over my friend. Oh wow, okay. Well, she admitted to that. At least she's taking accountability for the Numi concert. I like that, actually. We both grew to dislike Silverveil over the past few years for various reasons, including harassment and comparison. She get harassed by Silverveil? My own insecurities and how Silverveil acted towards me. Red asked an artist not to work with Silverveil in March 2025 and never told me about it. Red and I assumed Spite was copying me in 2022 and early 2023, and I overreacted to Niantel's Hellhound OC design in 2021. Every claim of wrongdoing that was made against Red or I that isn't listed above is not true, whether it was an assumption or a lie, in someone's document, a statement about me, or verbally on stream. I would list the false accusations here. There's been such a ridiculous amount at this point that I don't even know where to start. I will let this document speak for itself. These actions were not over years like the public was told. The majority of these actions happened in an 8-month span from August 2024 to April 2025. How each person was affected, if they were affected at all, is explained throughout this document. Nothing was black and white, and none of these actions were motivated by jealousy, envy, greed, or being malicious for the sake of it. My friends, I've been falsely claimed that I was using manipulation, sabotaging, betraying and backstabbing all of my friends for years in an effort to deplatform them and ruin their careers. There was never some kind of year-long grand conspiracy of deceit against anyone. And I have never pushed the ladder down behind me. I have never been jealous or envious of any of my friends or anyone else. Big doubt on that one. My friends were not... Wasn't there a line just earlier that she didn't like somebody, a content creator, because of her own insecurities? Yeah, and the deplatform, usually you use deplatform when it comes to cancel culture. I think people trying to deplatform her, that word would apply to her. I don't think it would apply the other way around. I don't think she tried to deplatform them. I think a better word that could have been used there was if she said that she tried to use them as stepping stone, or that she was spreading rumors behind their back. I think that's more accurate as to what the claims actually were. My friends were not stepping stones I used to further myself. I love my friends. Our experience together were real. Our memories together are real. It hurts that I even need to say that here. I think people think that it's very black and white when people do bad things. Like, let's say, for example, that she did backstab one of her friends. I personally don't think that it means that she hated them. People have toxic traits. That doesn't mean that she just, like, you know, straight up hated them. Yeah, like, if we think, for example, about, like, an abusive relationship. It's kind of like more of a extreme example, but there's different levels to being abusive. I mean, there is love, for example, between a couple. It's just that it's manifesting into, like, some people just don't know how to love properly. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that black and white. I don't doubt that she did have some great memories with her friends, that she did love them. It's just that, well, they believe that she did shitty things to them. I've always answered their question and offered them advice when they asked, done my best to be there and support them at their debuts with their own endeavors, and I personally bought so much of their merch for myself without ever saying so. I literally brought brownies my mom made across the country to share with them. I spend my own time making one-of-a-kind cosplay pieces of their VTubers for them for no other reason than that they were my friends. More than the 3 finished pieces below were planned for more of my friends, including Bao. Before I put all of my crafting focus into my Nihilister cosplay, it meant a lot to me that I could make things that meant a lot to them. Oh, that's for, I forgot her name. Wow, that's really good, actually. That looks really cool. She made a knife, or she decorated a knife? Yuzu, yeah, that's so Yuzu. I don't know what they think I did against them other than what I listed above, or where these ideas came from, or what rumors they were hearing about me, or how my friends collectively agreed this must have been the case after everything we've done and shared with each other. Absolutely could have been a much better friend, but I just can't believe every single one of them thought this little of me at a moment's notice. There were about a dozen of my friends involved before Nano's document was posted, and still not one of them said anything to me before they were posted publicly. A lot of my friendships did suffer due to where my priorities have been, especially over the course of 2024, because of my focus being overwhelmingly on work and less on my personal relationship. Outside of it, I neglected people I cared about, and so did Red, both online and IRL, even my closest friends, unless it was about work. I didn't put as much energy into just talking and hanging out, but that's not to say I never did, never wanted to, or disliked them for any reason. I had my things going on, and I know that they had theirs. When I wasn't streaming or working on something, I'd be isolating or hanging out with Red to decompress, and I didn't have the energy to socialize. Completely understandable. Like, fuck. When I end stream, I can't talk to anybody. It's over. And I think you guys spoke about a similar feeling. I tried to plan collabs with friends as often as I could, and it was a way to hang out while still appeasing my content brain. My collabs with my friends were made into YouTube videos, but to say that I was using them for that, as if countless other VTubers don't do the same thing, is crazy. It's something that worked for their mutual benefit in that case, like the collab. If we're talking about collab specifically, if you do a collab with somebody and you post it on a YouTube video, obviously it's working for both of your benefit. When I was traveling to see my friends, all I wanted to do was hang out and spend as much time together as I could, and it was the happiest I was. Red and I always loved, valued, and looked out for and appreciated our friends, even if we didn't show it as often as we should have. When are we getting to the good part, guys? Because so far, I feel like we are nitpicking on little things, And maybe it's because she's very nervous, she's very angsty writing this, but like none like the collab thing with YouTube, those were not the big claims. I don't even know who made that claim, by the way. I'm sorry to those of my friends who I haven't given the time they gave to me. I'm sorry for those I haven't spoken. Maybe she's answering like all the internet speculations, like all the fans speculation. I'm sorry for those I haven't spoken to in a long time for no other reason, my own negligence. And I'm sorry to my friends that I only focused on work with and I didn't spend enough time being your friend outside of it. All right, that's a cute section, at least. The business mindset. Hey, Refrunner TCG! I'm really excited about this set, by the way. I'm really excited. Very excited. Red and I became more closed off and neglectful of people over the past couple of years, but especially throughout 2024, focusing more and more of our time and energy on this career. Work became almost 24/7 for us, never taking a break. It was our job, our hobby, and almost all we talked about. We loved what we did, but we both became consumed by the content grind. Our work-life balance became non-existent. We were going all day, every day as a two-person team, working to an obsessive degree. We were always trying to do more with more people all the time. Everything became about doing bigger things, achieving more, accomplishing more, growing bigger, launching more cool things, having more opportunities, while keeping up with at least 4 to 5 streams a week. Our problem wasn't greed like it was claimed, it was ambition. Yeah, I agree. Ambition that was wearing us too thin to keep up with everything, but it was never enough to take a step back and relax. We were always looking ahead, always had to be progressing, never stopped to appreciate where we were or the people around us. I'm trying to give some like tone, and the money was nice, but it's never been the driving factor for anything we did. It was an indicator of successful project, event, or merch drop that anyone understood. The majority of what I've made and spent went back into my work or towards the house my dad has been building. I've released a lot of merch and it's something Red and I have both been passionate about. Coming up with and releasing cool new merch product is one of the most fun and fulfilling things to work on. And being on new products like a drink flavor or trading card game was super exciting to us. It was always about launching cool things for my community over the money it made. I've turned down merchandise opportunities and many more sponsorship opportunities than I've ever accepted, only taking on those I really wanted or had a strong interest in. Even though a lot of them were paying very well, being a greedy, money-hungry person has been falsely projected onto me. It's never been all about the money for either of us. One instance I may be called out for regarding this was during my Heaven Hound model debut. During my lore video, I had an intermission where my chat needed to fill a gold bar on screen with bits to progress the video. It was the easiest way for me to implement activity into the debut, and my chat having direct involvement by cheering me on was important to the story being shown. The motivation wasn't that people give me money for the sake of it. This mindset got myself and my career to where it was, but it took over our lives to an unhealthy degree, leading to the deterioration of our health and relationship with people. Being cancelled and away from work gave us the time to address this problem as our personal lives, for example. I have my own dog now who's been keeping me busy. I've gotten back into cosplay after not working on my Nihilister build for months. I've been trying to lead a healthier lifestyle. I've been going to the gym regularly. Despite finding it difficult to be motivated about things since April, I've been making changes so I don't fall back into the same unhealthy work mindset I was in. In my apology, I said, I'm disgusted with myself for buying into the narrative that my friends were competition. I just learned about all of this myself, and there could have been so many other friends affected by that narrative that things always had to be competitive. Red always considered everyone our competition, including my friends. I understood and agreed with his reasoning below. I didn't change anything between my friends and I didn't treat them any differently because of it. Wait. Red always considered everyone our competition, including my friend. I understood and agreed with his reasoning below. It didn't change, like, the reasoning here. It didn't change anything between my friends and I didn't treat them any differently because of it. The only person I became directly competitive against was Silverveil, and that wasn't right of me. But earlier she said she didn't do that. I'm confused. The content creation sphere is massive, and the VTuber sphere is a fraction of that with its own audience. Yeah. True. Everyone is always doing something, launching something, creating something. It's a constant race of relevancy, whether you want to look at it that way or not. No, the Tylenol thing definitely isn't true. Like, come on, we've been taking Tylenols for like decades. Nothing's ever happened. It's the nature of the industry. I think people are just memeing about the Tylenol thing. It's the nature of the industry. Part of the reason why we were always working on new things, releasing bigger things at a faster and faster rate was to stay competitive in the space. Okay, I get that. I'm following. In a general sense, everyone was competition. Oh, okay. That took a left turn. Friends, other VTubers, and other content creators. But at the same time that anyone and everyone could be considered competition, there were also collaborators, co-workers, and partners. The end goal was about staying relevant and in people's mind and making sure our project could succeed alongside anything going on at any given time, while also topping our own things we've done in the past. At no point was this view ever motivation or an excuse to hurt, take advantage, or put down creators around us. Especially friends. This is a business, it's a job, but keeping the business aspect of things in mind didn't affect the way I saw our friendships with people or the way I treated them. They were my friends too, and we both cared about them, supported them, and helped them out when they needed it. I always had the backs of the people closest to us. Unless it's Bao, I suppose. Or Silver. Oh, he does end up mentioning it, I guess. The only person I've ever considered as direct competition in the negative sense were people either we had something against, or they had or did something against us, and we were working with artists important to us. By April 2025, this was only Silver Veil from how she acted towards Sinder for years. And spite, no? Bao after what I thought she did to us and our friends in December of 2024, but only until sometime after my deal with Nano in January 2025, and potentially soon to be Lily by the way she was treating Sinder and coincidentally getting a model from Nanoless at the time. That was, I need to just, this is a long ass sentence. By April 2025, this was only Silver Veil from how she acted towards Sinder for years. Okay, we established that. Bao as well after what I thought she did to us and our friends in December of 2024. But only until sometime after my deal with Nano in Jan 2025, and potentially soon to be Lily by the way she was treating Sinder and coincidentally getting a model from Nanoless at the same time. Okay. It's such a funny way to words, like, I was very upset by the way she treated us, and potentially soon I was gonna have a grudge against Lily by the way she was treating Sinder and coincidentally getting a model from Nanoless at the same time. It was wrong of me to feel this way, especially toward Bao, and I'm sorry. I can appreciate the apology, at least. Spite not mentioned, though. Here, I want to address the people read and I heard that don't have a larger section in this document. Tricky we. My friends, Red, and I traveled to Japan last year about a week into our trip around the country. We arrived in Tokyo for the last few days there. Red, Tricky, and I were all talking about going to Godzilla store the night we arrived, but other plans left us with no time to go. The next morning, Red and I were up super early and were ready to leave the hotel around 8 or 9 a.m. We waited in our hotel room for about an hour without hearing from Tricky at all. Because we only had a few days left in Japan, Red and I wanted to make the most of our remaining time. We were around friends all week and didn't have much, if any, time alone together in Japan either. The other half dozen of us here either had their own plans or were still sleeping too. There were other friends staying at the same hotel as Red, Tricky, and I, so instead of waiting around for Tricky to wake up, we selfishly chose to go out into the city and to the Godzilla store without her. By the time Tricky was awake and ready to leave the hotel, Red and I were across the city and didn't go back to get her. We only met up with her towards the end of the day when everyone reconvened somewhere. Red and I are sorry for Tricky for leaving her behind and hurting her. We've always been there for her, especially when we traveled together. We didn't think she'd be left off completely alone with how many of us were together in Tokyo. We still should have waited for her instead of going off on our own. She was one of our best friends and we're both so sorry. I'm sorry to Cotton for the way I've avoided her and turned down collabs together for a situation that had nothing to do with me. I thought I was being a good friend to someone I was close with, but it was unfair to her to treat her that way. I did not agree with how Red included her name in his deal with Nano, and I wouldn't have let him if I knew about it, regardless of how I felt about her at the time. Red says, I was wrong. It was wrong of me to ask Nano not to work with Cotton. It was a spur of the moment thing, and after hearing about the situation she was involved in, I took it upon myself to do what I thought was right by another friend. Cotton's always been nice to me personally and she didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. Nixu deleted her tweet with her document about me. She shouldn't have, because she was right. I was going to include it here for reference, but I've left it out because of what she wrote in it. So instead, I think Nixu got a lot of shit for her document. So instead, I've summarized the situation below. Second, I don't want any kind of public reaction to this. I really do not want to appear on videos or similar. I don't want to my case being used as an excuse to put more hate into it. I just want to share and let it out my chest. I'll probably delete it in the end. That was part of Nixu's video. Nixu is an artist that reached out to me via email about making artwork in exchange for showing it off and giving a shout out to her Patreon on stream. I hadn't seen the email, but she made a tweet laying out her terms, tagging me in it. I messaged her that I was interested. I put her in contact with Fred and handled things from there. Through Red, we made an agreement. It wasn't until she had a large portion of the sketch finished when I had changed my mind about our agreement and didn't want to do it anymore. I don't know what was going on through my head or what my reason was for this, but I told Red to call it off. Red tried to make it seem like there was a miscommunication somewhere to save face from me, but it was really because I was being unprofessional. He talked to me and I agreed to follow through with the art showcase and shout out on my stream. However, I failed to follow Nixu's term as they were agreed upon. I didn't verbally shout out her Patreon and only showed the link to it that was on her artwork. I also didn't show the censored, not safe for work version of the art, but that was because I was worried about getting in trouble with Twitch. Okay, so for those who don't remember this doc, I'm trying to jog my memory too. This doc was less covered by people because mostly they thought it was less important. I think Nixu also got a lot of shit for it. But basically, the entire point of Nixu's like collab was that she really wants to push her Patreon, right? And on her Patreon, she puts these not safe for work artworks of VTubers. So the entire deal, the entire premise of this is to partner up with a popular VTuber, for example, and the popular VTuber would show the censored version of the not safe for work art on their stream in exchange for getting, you know, the free art. And that would lead their viewers to go to Nixu's Patreon and subscribe to her there to reveal the not safe for work version. So the fact that she didn't show the censored not safe for work version of the art, that really made Nixu disappointed because that was the whole point. Like, that was literally the whole point of why she was doing this for free. And yeah, if she was worried about getting in trouble with Twitch, well, you know, you can censor it more, or you should tell Nixu about it before the stream or before you agree to the terms. This was an unprecedented situation I caused with an artist, and I've never done something like this with anyone else. I handled an agreement I made extremely and regrettably, unprofessionally. This was way out of character for me, and I'm sorry to Nixu for how I handled things and for the stress I caused her. And I encourage anyone reading this to please support her and her incredible work. At least she took accountability for this, so that's cool. Hey, you! Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.